no head. I'll have to tilt you back. There you go, babe. You look better now.
Thanks.
Okay, you're good.
Okay. Cool.
Why don't you scoot forward? Make sure you still have a head.
Relationship goals.
Having a head.
All right, there you go,
Okay.
hon. You got it.
Okay. All right. John, will you open us with some prayer?
Yes. Father God, thank you for bringing us together one more time and being able to learn about leadership and enjoying each other's company as well. Please let us get something very, very meaningful out of this lesson. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right. So I wanted to read out of the Bible to y'all. It's in Mark chapter 4. And again, he began to teach by the sea. And a great multitude gathered to him. And that he got into a boat and he sat on it. He sat in the boat on the sea. And the whole multitude, which is smaller than like Lake Erie. We're talking about a sea. Right? You didn't go to Jerusalem or the Sea of Galilee area.
No,
Okay.
that's
So
further away.
the whole multitude was on the land facing the sea. He taught them many things by parables. And he said to them in his teaching, "Listen, behold, a sower went out to sow. And it happened, as he sowed, that some seeds fell by the wayside, and the birds in the air devoured it. Some fell on stony ground, where it did not have much earth, and immediately it sprang up, because it had no depth. But when the sun was up, it scorched it. And because it had no root, it withered away. And some seed fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no crop. But the other seed fell on good ground, and yielded a crop that sprang up and increased and produced some 30, some 60, some 100-fold. And he said to them, he who has ears to hear, let him hear." Now, the reason that I wanted to start off with that parable was because in this chapter, which was a pretty short, concise, focused chapter. I feel like that's the way John's chapter's been getting lately. Thanks, buddy.
No problem, Bob.
So, he divides them into 4 things, but he didn't do a graph. And he totally could have done a graph. So I drew out to you the graph. Okay? We have a nice little square metrics, kind of Stephen Covey with the time chart. Doing the right thing at the right time. Doing the right thing at the wrong time. Doing the wrong action at the right time. Doing the right action at the wrong time, or the wrong action at the wrong time. Did y'all get that from the book?
Yeah.
This is a pictorial of what is that we already went over. Okay, now the resounding thought that I want to leave you here with, because I'm kind of starting with the end, is where is your struggle when it comes to the law of timing? I think he did a really good job explaining what the law of timing is, but I want to make it more practical and applicable, because if I can be transparent, my law of timing issue typically falls into the entrepreneurial aspect of the right time and the wrong action. That's typically where I'm like, man, the timing's right. Gotta do this. We gotta do that. We gotta avoid this. And I can sense in an organization or when something's happening, I'm like, we have to do X, Y, Z. But either I don't have the title to do it and it doesn't get done, or I have the title to do it and I don't do it. And
The
so
title
I
to
fail
do it?
to act. Yeah, the title, not like a title indeed, a leadership title, the authority to do it.
Oh, okay.
So for me, transparently, that's typically where I fall when I do it wrong. I love to do it right, the right time, and it's fun. I thought the sister or the relative law in the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership to the law of timing would be the law of intuition. Would y'all agree?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, I don't want to say ethereal because I've been overusing that word, but it's kind of ethereal. It's kind of an intuition type thing. The law of timing now takes another dimension of not just the what, not just the how, but the when. And I want to say this as well. When to lead is never the question. When and how to lead is the question. Because 100% of the time, you're leading something. 100% of the time. You're leading yourself, you're leading those in your family, you're leading your church. But the question is, how and when tied together? Because that's whenever it actually matters. Whenever it's like, okay, the timing's right, now the how actually affects it. How is this going to get done, or what are we going to do? Does that all make sense? Do you all have further thoughts or questions, comments on what I've said so far? What is
I'm doing one of those.
processing? Am I going too fast?
No. I'm trying to figure out how that applies to me personally, but
Well,
that's my personal thing. So.
That's what I want us to kind of ponder on. Like, which of these categories do you typically fall in? And I really want you to focus on the 3 wrong ones for now. Won't be the entire time. I'll come back to the Bible verse we just talked about. But do you normally do things at the wrong time, but you're doing the right thing? Like, oh, it's too late to tell somebody that you love them, but I'm going to do it anyways, even though it's too late. So you miss the opportunity.
Or too early.
Or too early, like your date, you know, when she proposed to you.
Basically.
So think about that. Or maybe you do the wrong thing at the wrong time. I know none of us are going to be like, that's me, you know, but maybe we do the wrong thing, and it doesn't have to be 100% the wrong thing. It might be 50% right, 50% wrong, but that still is 100% wrong because you didn't get it all right. And you do it at the wrong time, which makes it exponentially worse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right time, wrong action. Like, I need to tell somebody that I love them. I really like you. Not the same thing. Right timing, wrong action.
Mm.
Okay. So, your face.
I don't get it.
You don't get my metaphor.
No.
Anybody care to read that got it? Care to say it
Yeah,
differently?
so say you've been, so it was like that same example?
No, use a different example.
Different
She
example.
didn't get my example.
Oh, okay. So like, so it's like the right time, but you did it the wrong thing. Okay, so like say, okay. So say like it's your birthday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's the right time, right? Okay. And Andrew like totally forgets it and like doesn't like do anything. That's the wrong action. You see what I'm saying? So like you're at the right time, but you did the wrong action though.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah. Is that like it?
Yeah, I like that. That was
Okay.
good.
Maybe like, okay, I think I thought of another example. Like somebody who has like an injury or an illness, you're trying to encourage them, but then instead you like say the wrong thing.
Yeah, like they might have
Like,
just
wow,
got.
that's gonna hurt when you get old. You're like, thanks.
Yeah, or.
Because I've had that.
Makes sense.
Like, are you healing up? Okay, yeah. But when you get old, man, it's gonna hurt. I'm like,
Yeah.
great, love you too. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the right time to do the right thing. but
Right,
they
the right
chose
time,
the wrong.
the wrong
But you just
words.
didn't say the right thing.
No,
yeah.
no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
like, that
alright.
sucks. Yeah. Gotcha.
So a lot of times in the church world, we think of grace as passivity, as like, well, we're giving somebody grace, and we're giving them more grace, and we're just giving them more grace, and we're giving more grace because God is gracious. We're just gonna grace. Typically, what we're avoiding is doing the right thing at the right time. And we may have already missed the right time, and now we're just trying to come up with excuses of why we did it. Oh, because of God's timing. God's timing is going to be later. No, sometimes you missed it, and you just need to own it. And this is another thing about living in the past that some people do as well. Sometimes it's like, okay, 3 years ago I didn't do this thing at the right time. Well, you can't go back and fix it, so let it go. Learn the lesson. Leave it behind, cut away the fat, and just continue on.
Because at that point, the right time is now to not do the wrong action, which would be dwelling too much on the past.
Exactly. I like that.
You did get it.
Boom.
You got it.
I'm just slow, that's all.
So we'll go around in a circle, but I'm going to set a little timer here, all right, which is going to be a short timer. And I want you to think about which of these 3 you typically fall into if and when you fail as a leader. Where's your struggle? And then that'll take up enough time to where I can wrap up with the parable that we just went over, because that was really important. Now, the stories in the book I thought were very applicable, and I remember George Bush in an earlier chapter.
Yeah, like flying over
Flying
the Katrina
over the
situation.
Katrina,
Yeah.
right?
The Katrina thing was just messed up on everybody's end.
That was also doing the wrong thing at the right time, where he could have been a hero and said, "I hear you," to the crowd, but he didn't. Yes.
And there was apparently reasons.
I'm just saying, really, there was so much screw up in that, though. I mean, really, it was. It's like the city of New Orleans. It's like, here comes a hurricane. Well, you're not paying attention, it seems like. I mean, when it happened,
Yeah.
it was just a big old mess.
Yeah.
And then, when he flew over, I mean,
There was
thanks
too
for
much
coming.
politics in that whole thing.
They
It
all
really
went to
was.
jail. The mayor, the chief of police, all of them, all went to prison
Wow. For their inaction?
Yeah.
for their inaction and their theft in office. They stole millions and millions of dollars of Katrina money that was sent there,
Oh my gosh.
and
The federal government
Insult to
can't
injury
act
there.
unless the state
There's
invites them.
an
and
example. It
sends
just happened at 6:30 tonight. President Bush, President Trump
Yeah.
was giving a speech on the virus.
Mm-hmm.
And he requested $2.5 million, $2.5 billion to put towards this troubleshooting this.
Mm-hmm.
And the Republicans wanted $4.5 billion
Mm-hmm.
in the Senate,
Yeah.
and the Democrats wanted to give him $8.5 billion.
And he wants to.
Now, they wanted to give him $8.5 billion, so he would refuse it.
Mm.
So they could come back and blame him. So he said tonight at 6:45 in the parking lot, he said, "I'll take all the money you want to give me." Diffuse that
Mm-hmm.
issue.
Yeah.
If he would have took $2.5 billion and we had a huge issue, it'd be all on him.
Yeah.
That was
It's on.
probably the right words, the right time
I was
there.
gonna say, that fits right in there, the right time, right action,
So-
right words.
That's
Rather
a
than
tricky
fight
situation though.
anybody, you just said,
Or
"Okay,
navigate.
I'll take whatever you want to give me, and we'll put it towards, we may not spend it all, but if we have to, we will."
Maybe
He's a
research.
businessman for you.
Yeah,
He's
seriously.
in all the money. He's not giving up equity either. So,
Exactly.
You know,
You give it to me, I'll take it.
Another thing recently what happened to him, his phone call with the leader from Ukraine, at first they all wanted to get him because, well, what's on the phone call? Well, he released it
Mhm.
before it all became such a hullabaloo, so that's funny. I guess he did the right thing at the right time.
Mhm.
I don't know, that is true, because if he would have not released it, it would have been like, well, you're hiding
Could have
something.
damaged trust with the American
And then
people.
when he finally released it, all the accusations, they're not gonna go away, you know what I'm saying?
I know, because the false information is hard to ever
Yeah,
like
it's-
rewrite it.
It's like when the attorney's in the law, in the court, and they're asking somebody, and the judge says, sustained. Well, too late now, they already said it.
Right.
Jury, disregard that. Well, I would think it's hard for the jury just to disregard it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You
once it's been
said it,
heard.
we heard it. Anyway,
The way you tried to explain that early on, the age that we're living in,
Mhm.
society has really become, this is my feeling, society has come to the point where they shoot from the hip,
Mhm.
okay? And they don't resource, fact check, or think of the consequences when they address you in a loving manner or a bad manner, or what, so they don't know how to use the right words. And the unintended consequences of what we're saying to each other is enormous.
Yeah.
And it can be bitter for lifetimes,
Mhm.
you know, so communications today is so fast. I mean, you hear a thought and instantly you have a reaction. Where in the past, we would have time to think.
Mhm.
Like, hey, I received a letter. I gotta think about my letter here for a little bit.
Yeah.
I completely agree. The speed, like, somebody who was great at timing 2 or 3 decades ago might not be as good at timing today because timing itself has changed.
Well, I think that's kind of why Biden is looking so poorly. He's an old,
Yeah.
he's almost 80 years old, and he's living in the past.
There's no way he's doing, man.
You know, but, I have a method, if you would like to see it.
Sure.
Draw a T on there. Okay. On top of the T, put concern or what you need to discuss. Or subject, or you know,
Something options.
2 words.
anything. Then on the left, put pro. No, on the left of the T.
The bottom.
Underneath the line,
Yeah.
put pro. And then on the other side, put con. Okay. Now, this is a concept that Benjamin Franklin came up with, okay? And in
I thought you
everything,
said this was yours, Gary.
well, I teach it and I use it a lot on major things in my life. So I define what I need to discuss with somebody, or a purpose, or what I need to do, like buy a new car. Let's say, okay, the pros for buying a new car and the cons, you know, or the pros of addressing somebody on a specific manner, or the pros of creating a new program. What are the cons? What am I going to be faced with? And guess what? When you put all the pros and you put all the cons down, you can see if the pros outweigh the cons, then it's probably a pretty good idea to go forward with talking to somebody or pursuing it, okay?
Yeah.
If the cons outweigh the pros, then you have a really bad idea. Or the concept's not right, the timing's not right, or anything,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
So it's just a simple thing that when big things came up that I really needed to really think hard about, I used something that simple to define the timing. I mean, I'm importing it into your timing thing,
Yeah.
but,
I think the time, like for instance, the con could be now is not the right time to address this issue.
now, you two are entrepreneurs, and Jonathan, you are too, but, you have to define your risk factor. Okay, now I am a risky person. Okay, I don't mind taking a risk. I'm not a big risk taker. But if the pros and the cons are equal, then I'm willing to go over the line, but not so far to go over the line that I can't come back.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
It makes perfect sense, yeah. Marissa's not so much of a risk taker, so I
I make sure we got a nice steady flow of things coming in.
yeah. we work well together in that. But you're 100% right with that, almost like a risk column. I would almost want to rate them because, you know, pro could be of like
Prorate it.
going to become a missionary, right? In a foreign country, that might be your subject. And a pro could be ripe harvest for saving souls. And the cons could be malaria and a whole bunch of other stuff that's like, you know,
The cost, the years of study, the
yeah, language barrier or learning,
health,
all those things.
you know.
But the question, going back to the law of investment versus the law of sacrifice, is that a good investment of your time? So, but I love the T chart. So getting back to the time part of the right timing, one of the ways that I like to think about it is it's kind of three-dimensional.
It's like a box.
It's like a box. Give me a high five. So when I'm thinking about timing and doing the right thing or the wrong thing, I check my spirit. I'm trying to just listen. Hey, is this the right time to do this? Because I used to always think as soon as I thought it was the right time to do it. That was my thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And
Now that you're a year older, you slow down a little bit.
yeah, exactly. I learned it yesterday. But it's really been
That was meant to be a joke.
it's really been helpful for me to try to learn to think, and we kind of, as humans, we kind of think 2 weeks in the front, 2 weeks in the back. That's just kind of our mindset. It's very difficult for us to get out into multiple months ahead or go back multiple months. As a reality thing, you think of, last week or the week before that, or next week or the week after that. That's kind of how we think as a society. So making sure that when you're thinking of timing, worry and stress and thought, sometimes you have to delay things intentionally and then set a reminder to be like, hey, it's June. You need to get ready for August because this thing is coming up. We found a cool YouTube video that talks about when to book events that are coming up 2 months out. So it talks about how in February you have the banquets for Boy Scouts. So in December is when you want to be calling them. December and January to book those in February. Makes sense. Catholic Schools Week is January 20-something?
I don't remember.
Last week of
Sounds
January.
like it.
Last week of January.
Mhm.
So those are November, December, right? Makes sense. Fall festivals, summer times when you call.
And
So-
some people book
Oh, yeah.
a month in advance. Some like libraries are 6 months in advance.
Mm.
When they book.
Exactly. So learning the law of timing. What if we try to call the libraries in the summer? Well, that's too late.
Bad.
Or that's way too early.
Way too early.
Depending
That's
on what you're
more
trying
like
to
it.
do.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna set the timer. We're gonna go through individually. You think about it. Well, corporately, we're all gonna think about it. But then we'll go through it. Larry, you'll be first once we're done.
What do we
Oh
do?
no, don't make me go first.
Hey,
You have
sweetie,
to.
I kind of have like a little question about this, but I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
So,
Your box looks way better than mine.
So my question is, okay, so if we're having a hard time pinning ourselves down on one of these boxes,
Mhm.
would you prefer that we think of a couple examples when our timing was bad, or
You can if you want.
like it'd be kind of, I don't know.
I assume stories will come out. That's just the nature of this group. But like, if you're in more than one category, I'm just asking you which one you think your default mode is when you're wrong. Not necessarily, because we've all done all of these.
Okay,
Right.
honey, I got it.
You ready? Start. This is all silence and thinking on your own.
Now, what exactly are we thinking about? I'm just not quite sure.
All right,
That's why I didn't want to go first.
Give you some specific counsel here. Over the course of your life, you have a natural proclivity to either do one of these four things.
Okay.
Which one is it and why? Either you're always doing the right thing at the wrong time.
He doesn't want the check mark to be your answer, even though we know that you're probably perfect.
You're probably right and do the right thing at the wrong time all the time. But maybe you're the type of person like, I'm always doing the right thing, but I do it at the wrong time.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe the person is like, I normally do the wrong thing, but my timing's great. I knew that was when I was supposed to do it. I just did it wrong. Or the fifth one, I do things wrong and at the wrong time. Okay. So just thinking which one your natural proclivity is. Which way do you gravitate towards to identify that weakness? Okay.
I'm thinking.
Okay. Now, if all of y'all are ready, we don't have to wait for
I am ready.
Ready,
I'm
ready,
ready too.
ready. Gary?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm still
Take
not
as
going
much time
first.
as
I'll
you
go
can.
first.
No, somebody else
No,
go
he's
first.
thinking
Oh,
with
he's go-
himself.
No,
he
I
can't
don't.
engage in conversation unless he's.
Oh, he hasn't
privately
figured it out
thinking.
yet?
Oh, I guess I'm figured out. Go ahead, somebody go.
Okay, we'll work with you specifically.
All right.
Okay, Marissa.
Okay, so I was thinking, well, probably the right action at the wrong time because sometimes I'm kind of slow to get some things done. But I also think that it probably leads into the wrong action in the wrong time because sometimes at that point I've already have the wrong timing, so my action can't be very good anymore.
Okay. I understand.
Like now I'm just kind of trying to fix something I already messed up.
Yeah. Which is funny how we're working on each other with that because I'm like, no, it's the right time to do this thing, and she knows the right thing to do, and I always do the wrong thing, but do it at the right time, and so like posting about our new reptiles and stuff,
Yeah.
like she'll like treasure it up in her heart, being like, oh, it's so sacred and special, and I'm just gonna wait.
The things I like the most I don't necessarily do because for me, yeah, they're so sacred and so special. I like don't tell people. I just treasure them up in my heart. And so I was like, oh, by the way, I'm about ready to marry Andrew. I have a boyfriend, guys. And then I don't want to have to care about other people. So yeah.
That's good self-awareness. John?
I'm gonna go with the right action at the wrong time. Cause sometimes I might be late. I might like learn something new, and then I'll like be late trying to implement it. You know what I'm saying? No, the right action at the wrong time.
Oh, you do the right thing. At the
He
wrong
was
time.
doing
But
the same.
actually, the other one too is what I was gonna also say. So you go ahead.
That's what I heard you say.
Keep that there, and also that too.
Okay.
Maybe you did. I don't know. But what happens is, I'll sometimes I'll like learn something new, and I'll be like, okay, well let me do this. But then like sometimes it might be too late because I didn't know that I had to do it. Like I didn't know that I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? That I had to do something. I try it, and it's like, it's a little too late for that. But sometimes I might do the wrong thing at the right time. Yeah, I might sometimes do the wrong thing at the right time. Also, I don't really have an example, but yeah.
Okay. So sometimes you just got them flipped.
Yeah.
All right. Gary.
I'm too complex for this.
We'll make a special quadrant called the Gary. Okay. Let's put it up here.
The things that I have struggled with is I'm a according to personality test, I'm a dominant and an influencer. I have those characteristics. So consequently, I'm a plotter, a planner. I plan everything down. And when I've done the right thing at the right time, it's because I planned it and it worked like it was supposed to be.
Right.
But when I was quick to make a choice, to recommend something or buy something or do something, and I did it too quickly, I made the wrong choice at the wrong time. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
So
You actually live in these two.
in my personality, the best things I do is when I plan and then implement the plan.
So
when I react too quickly, I don't think through what I'm going to say to you or what your reactions would be or what I expect from the organization or something.
So go way back with me, Gary, before you learned you were a DI. What was your natural, like let's say high school, college age, what was your natural proclivity back then? Were you typically the kid who was doing the right thing, but maybe like, oh, you're late, or oh, you're early, or was it normally like, well, you're here on time, but you're not dressed right? Like, what was it from before you learned that personality trait to learn you needed to plan, before you were a planner?
Well, I'm an observer, so I've observed how people should act. And so I taught myself to act like the people I like, or that I was in part of,
Right.
you know, and I would dress like them. I would, timing, those kinds of people get there a half hour early for something.
Yeah.
They don't get there 15 minutes after or a half hour late. And so the things of life,
Okay.
One of the most influential things that ever happened to me, I was 11 years old. And I was in a drugstore in Goodyear Heights. And I was with 5 other young boys. And we were in there and just looking around and, you know, I don't know if we're gonna steal something or not. I don't know what we were doing in there. But anyways, as we were walking out the door, the pharmacist and the owner of the store said, "Let me shake you guys' hands." So he made each one of us shake his hands. And I gave him this little handshake. And he said, "Son, don't ever shake a hand like that again. If you're a man and you know who you are, you shake it with conviction." And that stuck with me for the rest of my life. And he didn't know me. That simple thing.
It's influence. Debbie?
I'm a right thing at the wrong time kind of person. I have good intentions, good motives, but it's either too early, and then when the time is right, I'm too late. So.
You know, that's funny. That's what I was thinking too. But it's funny because I would do the right thing maybe too quick. Or then you stop and you're thinking about it, and all the time has passed. Now it's the wrong time. But it's funny that Debbie says that, because I'm thinking to myself, a lot of times she keeps me from doing stuff too quick. You know what I mean? The right thing, and gosh, I shouldn't have done it that time. And I know that there's been instances, just like a simple thing like buying a car. Okay, we're gonna buy a car. Well, I kind of got this theory. I'm always looking, unless I just purchase one, but it's almost like I look a couple years in advance, because I hate buying new cars because it's just a ripoff. You're paying too much money for a new car for nothing.
At least
if
get
you
it off
ask
the
me.
lot for a year, you know?
But, so I'm looking at a car and I think, oh, there's the car I want. Well, this one isn't totally gone yet, but then, and that's worked out great for us at times. And other times, Debbie would say, no, just wait a while, let's wait a while. And it's funny how, if you do that, it seems to work out.
So you're saying she's helped balance your
Yes,
bad timing?
yes, and I
And she's
think we
wrong,
both.
she actually does it at the right time.
Yeah, and I think
Well,
at
you
other
still
times.
do this one, the check mark. We still do the right thing at the right time. We're just saying out of the ones we do wrong, because you do things right and at the right time, Larry.
Yeah.
So I'm not ignoring that.
Oh no, yeah.
It was the time I did buy the right car, and it was the right
Well,
time.
sometimes it was, and other times I'm thinking, well, we should have waited, because we've gotten a car where it was all her doings. Wait, no, let's go over here. Okay, and then wow, it worked out.
But yeah, the things that I do with the right time and the wrong, what am I thinking of?
Wrong action?
The wrong action. I was thinking on a smaller scale, because we're pretty good about big things, you know? It's the smaller stuff that I do, which, you know, is not,
It's not bad.
well,
not
but
evil.
it's not good either, you know? I mean, it'll be something I wanted to do for someone, you know, that they would have appreciated, and I was really looking forward to doing it.
Yeah, that would be
And
me.
then, you know, it's like a week after, and I go, oh,
Yeah,
how did I, you know?
I know.
And it's not just one time, it's, you know.
Yeah.
I think we keep each other in balance a lot with that respect, I think.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I'm so happy, oh, wow, I'm glad you said to wait, or I'm glad you said to let's do it now.
Yeah, and
Because
vice versa.
and if you
say that. Yeah.
don't do it now, then oh man, I missed the boat. You know what I mean? I've had that before.
And he's a little more of a risk taker than I am, too.
I would
It's
say
like,
yes.
I'm not so quick to pull the trigger, you know?
That's why women live longer.
Was it you that showed me that video the other day? Like this is why
Oh, the
women-
slide?
where the guy was like trying to do a backflip and landed on his back, and it was just a whole bunch of dumb, stupid things that guys do. It's like, okay. So I already identified that I typically do try to do things at the right time, but I do the wrong thing. Okay. Now I want to go back to the Bible, where hopefully it didn't go away. The other seed fell on good ground and yielded a crop that sprang up and increased some 30, 60, and 100-fold. Okay, so practically and applicably, when we leave here today, we might have some birds that come up and eat our seed. We might fall by, actually this one would probably be the birds. Might have some bad soil, right? And we might have the thorns that choke us. But it's not about the seeds that we're planting that die. It's about when we do the right thing at the right time, focusing in on that, because then we can multiply those good items. Does that make sense? Larry's face doesn't say that it makes
No,
sense.
I guess not.
You've had a long day too, and you skipped dinner.
Well, I really did. I'm not trying to make an excuse. I'm having a hard time focusing, I guess. Say that again real briefly, what you just said again.
In the parable, let me read
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Because, listen. No, that's what Jesus said. Not I just.
Listen, and then listen.
Behold, a sower went out to sow, and it happened that when he sowed, that some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured it. He did the wrong thing at the wrong time. Some fell on the stony ground, where it did not have much earth, and immediately it sprang up, because it had no depth of the earth. It was bad soil. But when the sun was up, it was scorched, and because it had no root, it withered away. And some seed fell among the thorns. And the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no crop. But other seed fell on the good ground, and yielded a crop that sprang up, increased, and produced some 30, some 60, and some 100-fold.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're thinking about applying the law of timing to our lives, we're going to do the wrong thing at the wrong time sometimes. We're going to do the right thing at the wrong time, and we're going to do the right time, or the wrong action at the right time. But if we can focus in on this, then we're going to get that harvest that we want in our lives. Whatever it is. Because the law of sowing and reaping is not just applicable to sales or evangelism. It's applicable to every area of our life. So,
The goal should be to do the right thing at the right time for everything.
that is the goal.
For the biggest harvest.
But if it happens, we don't focus on this anymore. We want to focus in on doing the right thing at the right time. But if we make a mistake and we look back, and we apologize, we receive grace and mercy and move on to do that more. So now that we know where your struggle is, your proclivity in the wrong time, right action category might just be planning. That's what really helped Gary overcome his problem. Was, with the timing. It was, you have the right action, the right intent, you're like ready to do it. Let me plan my week out a little bit, and saying no. That's a big key to getting the timing right. Because if you are trying to do the right timing, but you have way too many other things to juggle, you get distracted and you can't intuit, you can't feel what the right time's supposed to be. For us, we, with the right time and the wrong action, we have to plan and think about, and I'm open to suggestions, but for me, I have to actually think about the repercussions of the actions and what's the highest and best for everybody else involved. Not just, here's the best decision for our company. Okay, what's the best decision for the economy? Not that we affect the economy that much, but thinking outside, thinking about the church, thinking about the schools that are local, thinking about how I spend my time and what's the biggest impact I can have.
A box that's not there is unintended consequences.
Unintended consequences?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so failure to do something or not do something, what are the consequences? Unintended consequences. And that drastically changes everything in those 4 boxes.
Well, I would disagree that it doesn't change everything that happened in the 4 boxes, because these still exist. But what affects it, the results, are going to happen. This is just how to make the decision, not how to control the results. And then doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, as Marissa and Gary mentioned.
You know what I'm thinking?
What?
Just like people, if you start young, people that investments, they tell you, take your $100 a month or whatever and put it in. Just keep putting it in over 5 years, over 10 years, over 20 years, and at the end, you may have some periods of down and up and down and up, but for the most part, you should come out good. So it's almost, I don't know, you're kind of, the law of timing, you're kind of making it work for you in the long term, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing with money. You're not going to try to do compounding interest and start at your 60s.
Well, yeah, and the difference is if you're a big wheel and you're going to invest in stocks, now you're different. Now you're almost gambling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then timing really comes into play. You can lose a lot,
I'd
but
love to
you
have
can
cashed out
gain
those
a
7.
lot too.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Or the summer of 08 would have been the right time to cash out of the stock market.
Sure, that's true. That's true. Yeah, and then it's funny, just about 3 years ago, the economy was just kind of just not really rising, just kind of staying the same. Now, if you had a bunch of money and you threw it in there and it went up, you know. Now we talk about timing.
But that's timing and the element of education, understanding the stocks,
Yeah,
and then
right.
the politics, the global politics. It's a lot more than just the time. But thinking about it from a leadership side, think about Good News Club. Whenever the timing happens, you had a great idea about reformatting it to where kids, we don't teach the lesson for 30 minutes. You teach 15 minutes of the lesson, then you do the games and stuff in the middle, and then you do the rest of it. That's applying the law of timing because the kids'
Oh, I was
energy-
going to have the potty break in the middle.
Or the potty break in the middle. So
Yeah.
kids
Yeah.
don't say, hey, I
Yeah.
need to go to the
That's a
restroom.
good idea.
That's
Yeah.
understanding on a
That's
micro
smart.
scale how to do the law of timing,
Yeah,
right?
Then they have to
Yeah.
get up and.
Yeah.
And then they just take a little break. They get to go do something.
Yeah, and I can
you
see,
know?
I'm that kid.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I was like,
Well, you know,
Man, I
it
need to
really
reset my
does.
brain. I'm going to go to the bathroom and I'll come back and I'll feel better.
Not the eye.
Now we can go back and teach it.
Well, it's like they were in
Spot's
there,
open.
they did their snacks,
I know.
and they went to the bathroom, and I don't mean it this way, but it's
They didn't
like
have to go at that
every-
point, a lot of them.
No.
Yeah.
They didn't.
And two, they got a little break. You know, they did all the, like, quote, fun stuff or the stuff that doesn't really matter all at one time. They should have, broke it up.
Yeah, reformat is good.
And whenever you're doing your presentations and you're bringing out like the crescendo snake, the reason you've timed that one to be at the end of your show is because the entire thing is the build up to, hey, this is the big beauty at the end, right? Just like a song. I was really thinking about music when I was reading this chapter because it was like when you think of an epic song, let's just say Canon D, right? And the way that Canon D flows, is everybody here familiar with the wedding song? Right, that one, the way that I just sang it, I didn't have the timing right. But if I were to be like, that's the way.
It wasn't any different, but it's okay.
It was a little slower. But then again, what is music if the timing is off? It's terrible. It's a train wreck. It's the timing's off. But then you have that silence, and then the strings come back in different songs that are epic songs.
Think like a techno song. You just like,
Think about that. Think
here it
about that. The next movie you're gonna watch, listen to the music at the most intense part of the movie, because as soon as his face turns and the camera changes to that camera, and then the bass note hits at that exact moment, and then you feel the experience, right? Because timing was accurate. So, anyways, I really like this one. I'm excited for the law of explosive growth next week, though.
Just like that, huh?
Yeah.
I keep thinking about like how with the right action, the wrong time, and blah blah blah. How there's a lot of things that like, oh man, like we don't know. There's a lot of factors we don't know, and so sometimes I feel like, for me and for other people, sometimes you go ahead and you do what you think is the right time at the right action, but then later on you find out, oh, it wasn't. but you actually didn't have enough information
Mm-hmm.
to even know. So you did the right thing as far as it was concerned with you and humanity, but you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that does happen, instead of being like, I mean, you can like take note of it if you want to, but you could be like, man, I'm always doing things at the wrong time. Like, it's not a good time to beat yourself up because you were doing as best you knew how, you know. So making the next right decision is what you need to focus on.
Yes, and I want to add to what you just said.
Sure.
When you're at that state of, I'm aware that I didn't have enough information to make the right decision at the right time, the next time you should be asking yourself the question, do I have all the information to make this decision at the right time?
Right.
You've got to learn from those lessons, and that's what produces personal growth. Because a lot of times people are just like, well, I've been making the same mistake for the last 25 years. Like, maybe you should learn from your mistakes.
And it might be the right time, like you were talking about investments, like what do you know about timing and everything. It might be the right time to go get the information, to study about it, to later on know when it's the right time to do the investments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking,
Sure. There's a lot to that stuff. It can drive you crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Just like the Hong Kong flu or whatever it is, and the economy's starting to feel the effects. Well, when do I think it's going to start taking back off again, you know? But those are the guys with the big money that they can afford to lose some too.
Just scribble.
I'm scribbling.
Oh,
Okay.
it's so pretty.
So if Ellet Day, all right, is right here, a lot of the tasks leading up to it doesn't really matter when they're done. All that matters is that they get done ahead of time. So there's not like a I'm sensing the law of timing is going to be, you know, Thursday, April 28th that I'm going to do this thing. No, it doesn't matter. As long as it's like before a couple months out, whenever that happens, in the shift in the congregation, it's kind of like, hey, our focus is now Ellet Day. We still have Easter and Road to Resurrection before then. But once that moment hits, then things start smoothing out, and then the law of timing actually matters. Does that make sense? Sometimes we get, myself very much so, I get too much into the law of timing when it doesn't really matter. The tasks just need to get done. So
I can see that. Yeah.
So this was an epiphany that I had.
Well, you
recently.
know, too,
It's good.
when you're planning on something and you got to present something, well,
Like
you
with
don't
the
want to
men's
start
leadership?
way too early
Yeah.
because then you're losing the effect. But you still got to time it where you're done, and then boom, and I'm ready. It's fresh in my mind, and I can spew it back out.
And that's in March, right?
March 21st.
March 21st. So like right now, you're studying and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But think about it this way, Larry. For your whole life, since you've gotten reborn, you've been preparing for this message.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
Okay.
think about it,
Sure.
each week,
Yeah.
every sermon that Dave preaches is preparing him for his next one.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the preparation for a sermon is the preparation for the next sermon and the next sermon. So thinking about it, you can compound that interest, which is why, you know, most men succeed in business between 50 and 65. It's because they've been making mistakes for so long, they've compounded their experiences
Yeah.
to actually make good decisions. But anyways, I want to hear what you guys say.
Oh, yeah. So, like, when I'm faced with a situation like a day that's like this, you know, like if this was all representing of a day, like when I was trying to come here, I was like in this little funk where I was like wasting my time, right? And then I was like, oh my gosh, okay, so I have an hour and a half till I need to go to leadership meeting. So I just like wrote down each of my tasks I needed to accomplish with how long each of them were going to take. And then I just need to make sure that I get those tasks in whatever order I want, just done in that period of time.
Yeah.
And that helps me. And then if it doesn't add up, I'm like, okay, well, I better fix something here.
Yeah, you gotta make sure the numbers of
Get those
time
brownies cooked.
fits.
Well, there is some time. You gotta make sure the brownies were cooked before the
Can't
last
put those
thing.
in last.
Last thing I put in those brownies.
Put the candles in the oven too. Just put it all in there.
Obviously, there's my law of timing of having hot brownies, but candles, yeah, it didn't work out with timing.
It does make
Were
you
you
feel
saying something?
good, though.
I heard a noise and we all attend
It was
together.
just a loud yawn.
It does make
Oh,
you
I
feel
didn't know.
good when you hit that just right thing
Oh,
at
yeah.
the right time. And
It's
then,
like an
man.
epic song.
Oh,
I mean,
it
it's just
really
like,
is. It's just like, oh.
That's my epic song sound.
You know, it's funny. Just like I was
It's
running
crazy.
around all day today. My brother says, "Pick me up there." Well, I don't know because they're not going to have my medication ready. Well, is my brother going to be home that I'm taking him to? And honestly, it worked out. And I pulled in the driveway to get her about 5:20, and we had to leave by around 5:30 to come here. And I thought, Woo, worked out great.
Well, Debbie, would you close us in prayer?
Sure. Lord, we just thank you for this time that you've given us together in the leadership class and all the things that we've learned, and just thank Andrew for being so dutiful in teaching us and giving us good lessons. And we just ask your special blessing on him today as it's his birthday. And Lord, just be with Donna and Cindy as they weren't able to make it here tonight, and we just keep us safe and help us to prepare for next week's lesson. And it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Now, what year were you born, Andrew?
93. Marissa, can you stop it?
No kidding.
yeah.
1993.
I know.